global leader of eco-friendly future materials. Green tomorrow with POSCO.
Coming up on Arirang News. South Korea and Japan hold a joint meeting in Seoul involving Director General level diplomatic and defense officials. Future-oriented security cooperation was discussed at the so-called 2+2 meeting, the first such talks in 5 years. South Korea's car exports hit yet another record high for the month of March on the back of sales of eco-friendly cars. Also, with the normalization of the auto parts supply chain, monthly car production topped 400,000 mark for the first time in 6 years. With South Korea's aging society, the number of job additions for those aged 60 and older hit a record high last year. Not only employment, but also the number of those who started their own business reached the highest. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in South Korea. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with the joint talks between South Korea and Japan. As a follow-up to the Yoon-Kishida summit last month, the two countries today held a dialogue involving Director General level diplomatic and defense officials. It was the first such meeting in 5 years. The two sides agreed to further enhance their security cooperation amid escalating nuclear and missile threats from North Korea. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji leads our coverage tonight.
Last month, South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida agreed to resume various consultation channels during their summit in Tokyo.
외교 경제 당국 간 전략 대화를 비롯해서 양국의 공동 이익을 논의하는 정부 간 협의체들을 조속히 복원할 것이며
As a follow-up, Director General level officials from the two countries' foreign affairs and defense ministries held talks in Seoul on Monday morning, for the first time in 5 years. Last such meeting was held in March 2018 in Tokyo, but hasn't been held since then, after bilateral relations were strained because of disputes, including the issue of wartime forced labor victims and Japan's export restrictions on South Korea. Seo Min-jung, the Director General for Asia and Pacific Affairs at Seoul's Foreign Ministry, and her Japanese counterpart Takehiro Funakoshi took part in Monday's meeting. The 2.5-hour meeting was also joined by Woo Kyung-seok, Deputy Director General for International Policy at Seoul's Defense Ministry, and Atsushi Ando, the Deputy Director General of the Defense Policy Bureau from Tokyo. Seoul's Foreign Ministry said the officials shared information on the security situation in Northeast Asia, including North Korea's nuclear threat, and said the two sides agreed to improve security cooperation in a future-oriented way. It also said they had an in-depth discussion on the current status of cooperation between Seoul and Tokyo, as well as trilateral cooperation with Washington. South Korea and Japan are also reportedly aiming to resume diplomatic talks at a vice-ministerial level that hasn't been taking place since 2014. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
South Korea, the U.S., and Japan held their latest joint naval exercises on Monday on international waters east of the Korean peninsula. This time around, the three countries brought their powerful Aegis-class destroyers, South Korea's Yulgok-ii, the American Benfold, and the Japanese Atago. This marks the third time these three nations have teamed up for this type of drill. The latest has a clear focus, defending against North Korea's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile threats. They're doing this by running through a simulated scenario, getting ready to work together in detecting, tracking, and tackling whatever comes their way during a potential North Korean attack. On the trade front, South Korea's global export share shrank to its smallest size last year since the global financial crisis of 2008. Citing data by the World Trade Organization, the Korea International Trade Association in a report on Sunday said the value of global exports hit almost $25 trillion last year. The Korea, for its part, accounted for 2.7% of the total exports, marking a decline for the second year in a row. Back in 2017, Korea's share stood at 3.2%, but it has since dropped to the 2% range amid the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and trade tensions between the U.S. and China. Amid concerns on sluggish outbound shipments, Korea's car exports in fact hit fresh highs last month on the back of tax benefits in the U.S. and sales of eco-friendly vehicles. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the numbers.
South Korea's auto exports hit record highs once again in March. According to data released by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy on Monday, the value of car exports came to over $6.5 billion, smashing the previous record of $5.6 billion set in February. This is a 48% rise compared to the same month last year. Production levels also reached a high unseen since 2017. Over 400,000 cars were produced in March for the first time in 6 years, after supplies of auto parts resumed following the reopening of China's borders. Of these 400,000 vehicles, some 260,000 were sold overseas, the largest number of units exported since December 2016. The ministry attributed this to more South Korean cars being eligible for tax credits under the United States Inflation Reduction Act, despite not being assembled in North America. This was reflected in the exports of eco-friendly cars, which recorded all-time highs in terms of both export value and vehicle units. Around 72,000 eco-friendly vehicles were sold overseas in March, an almost 80% increase compared to the previous year. The value of these exports came to some $2.3 billion, an almost 95% increase on year. The export of electric vehicles saw the highest rise in numbers on year, rising by over 100%, followed by hybrid and hydrogen cars. Domestic sales differed in that hydrogen-fueled vehicles saw the greatest rise in sales on year at 51.2%, followed by hybrid cars. Domestic sales were also boosted by the release of new models such as Hyundai Motors' new Grandeur and Kia's new Niro. The most popular model in South Korea was Hyundai Motors' Grandeur GN7, selling over 10,000 units in March. Meanwhile, exports of vehicle components fell on year by 5.3%, coming to just over $2 billion. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
In a society where 1 out of every 4 Koreans is now over the age of 60, the number of senior citizens entering or re-entering the workforce reached an all-time high last year. Lee Eun-jin tells us more.
The last of the baby boomers are now getting closer to retirement age. And with more elderly people than children, South Korea's population is aging quickly, with the number of people over 60 having surpassed the 25% mark in 2022. On Monday, new data was released from Statistics Korea, the Ministry of SMEs and Startups, and the Ministry of the Interior and Safety. The latest figures for 2022 show not only record high numbers of new jobs for people aged 60 and over, but also record high on-year job growth for people of that age group. There were some 5,858,000 people aged 60 and above employed in 2022. That's an increase of 452,000 jobs from the year before. The number of jobs for this age group has been growing on year since 2004. It took 14 years for the number of workers aged 60 and above to increase from 1 million in 1987 to reach the 2 million mark in 2001. It took 11 years to reach 3 million in 2012. But to reach the 4 million mark in 2017, it only took another 5 years, and only 3 years to surpass the 5 million in 2020. And another record is being set by the elderly age group. With longer life expectancies, a growing number of people over 60 are starting new businesses. 6 years ago, in 2016, the number of new businesses started by those over 60 was 73,471. And in 2022, that number reached 129,384, a 76.1% increase. Despite the strengthening job market in South Korea, most of the added jobs went to people over 60, which reflects the challenging job conditions for younger generations. Lee Eun-jin, Arirang News.
Also here in South Korea, as part of broader efforts to achieve carbon neutrality, the government is actively promoting green remodeling of old buildings for greater energy efficiency. Our Shin-Young has the story.
In order to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, South Korea must reduce greenhouse gas emissions from buildings, which accounted for 1/4 of the country's total emissions, by 32.8% compared to 2018 figures by 2030. But this is not an easy task, as many older buildings weren't built to current standards that take emissions into account. With these older buildings in mind, the Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transport launched a project to support those who plan to participate in green remodeling, which aims to improve the environment indoors while reducing greenhouse gas emissions from buildings.
This was a police station for 40 years, and after undergoing green remodeling, it's now an energy-efficient office building with its energy cost 65% lower compared to before.
Installing solar panels helped transform this office into a more eco-friendly place. In particular, the building integrated photovoltaic or BIPV system on the exterior walls not only saves energy, but also enhances the appearance of the structure. It also has a building energy management system to monitor and control the building's energy needs. This daycare center is a much cozier place for children during the winter since going green. An energy-efficient thermal pane window using low emissivity glass allows sunlight in during winter and keeps heat inside. In summer, the windows block out heat while still letting in natural light.
We used to consume around 14,000 kilowatt-hour of electricity per month, but after going green, it went down by 2,000. This place was freezing during the winter, but now it's so cozy and warm that even the kids can run around barefoot.
This eco-friendly university library improved its energy efficiency by 50% compared to before. It uses a heat recovery ventilator to improve indoor air quality by replacing stale indoor air with fresh air from outside. Starting this year, the green remodeling project for public buildings has expanded to senior centers and public libraries. As for the private sector, the government decided to provide more financial aid to participants.
About 12,000 private buildings undergo green remodeling annually. But last year, due to the rate hikes, there were fewer participants. So this year, the government is focusing more on private buildings.
He added that green remodeling has become more attractive these days as energy bills rise. Shin-Young, Arirang News.
Turning to the military document leakage in the U.S., the Wall Street Journal has reported a pro-Russian social media account overseen by a former U.S. Navy non-commissioned officer played a key role in spreading the information. Jung Won-ju has more.
The Wall Street Journal confirmed in an exclusive interview on Sunday that the pro-Russian social media accounts used to leak and spread classified U.S. documents last week was run by a former U.S. Navy non-commissioned officer. According to the Wall Street Journal, intelligence documents allegedly leaked by Airman First Class Jack Teixeira, who was arrested last Thursday, spread online through the social media accounts of a Russian blogger known as Donbas Devshuka. Donbas Devshuka, which translates as Donbas Girl, is the face of a network of pro-Russia social media, podcasting, merchandise, and fundraising accounts. The persona has a YouTube channel, a Twitter, and a Spotify podcast with tens of thousands of followers. According to online Navy records, Donbas Devshuka, based in Washington State, is a former U.S. enlisted aviation electronics technician whose real name is Sarah Bills. Bills admitted to raising funds and conducting a podcast under the name Donbas Devshuka and told the Journal that 15 other people help her run the account. Bill's Telegram account was recently associated with helping to spread 4 images of leaked U.S. intelligence documents that appeared on a Discord server, a social media platform popular with gamers. The images were later spread by several large Russian social media accounts, leading to an investigation by the U.S. Department of Defense. The Wall Street Journal noted that the documents posted on her channel were altered versions of the Discord documents, but Bills denied that her team had altered them. The journal also reported that there is no evidence that figures related to Donbas Devshuka were involved in the original leak of the documents. The alleged leaker Jack Teixeira, a 21-year-old junior-ranking U.S. National Guard airman, has been charged under the Espionage Act with unauthorized retention and transmission of national defense information and unauthorized removal of classified information and defense materials. 정은주, Arirang News.
Also in the U.S., a sweet 16th birthday party turned into a shocking crime scene with 4 young lives lost and many more injured. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
What was supposed to be a joyous sweet 16th birthday party in Alabama on Saturday turned into a deadly event with 4 people shot dead and over 24 others injured.
This incident occurred at approximately 10:34 p.m. near the 200 block on Broad Neck Street here in Dadeville in Tallapoosa County. All right. There were 4 lives, not fatalities, lives. There were 4 lives tragically lost in this incident. And there's been a multitude of injuries. As they said, this is going to be a long, complicated process.
The Alabama Law Enforcement Agency said that due to the seriousness of the incident, the FBI, the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the 5th Circuit District Attorney's Office were all present at the crime scene and are currently assisting with the investigation into the shooting. Among those killed is the brother of the girl celebrating her 16th birthday. Many of those wounded are also teenagers, including several who are currently in critical condition. Authorities did not provide any information on a potential suspect or any possible motive for the shooting. The latest deadly shooting in the U.S. comes just weeks after 2 high-profile shootings that occurred in the nearby states of Tennessee and Kentucky. There have been at least 146 mass shootings in the U.S. so far in 2023. The rise in the number of mass shootings in the country has prompted more leaders to call for tougher gun control laws. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
3 more people in South Korea have been confirmed with mpox. That brings the total to 13. According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency on Monday, the country's 11th patient is a South Korean national who lives in Seoul. The other 2 are also Korean nationals but are residing in the southeast region of Gyeongsangnam-do province. The agency added that none had traveled abroad recently, meaning it's likely that they're infected via local transmission. Health authorities are currently conducting epidemiological investigations. Tonight, we have a story about a group of students from the U.S. visiting South Korea to explore the Korean culture, wishing to build friendship among future generations as the 2 countries celebrate their 70-year-old alliance. Our Kim Jung-sil spent the day with them.
Students from New York wearing traditional Korean clothing, hanbok, are visiting Gyeongbokgung Palace.
1, 2, 3.
They stop at every step to take pictures, as if to capture each moment. On this field trip, a total of 105 students from 5 schools in New York came to South Korea. Democracy Prep public schools teach Korean as a second language and have Korean culture classes. This is because the founder of the school spent time in South Korea and was dedicated to bringing Korean education and culture back to the U.S. One student said she enrolled in one of the schools because of her mother's interest in K-dramas.
When my mom first came to America, she was obsessed with K-dramas. She would watch them on cable, and she wouldn't understand the language, but she would read the subtitles. And she was always really involved in the culture.
Korean is really core to the starting of Democracy Prep, our school, and it's something that we also really value in terms of offering our students a perspective of a culture and language that is not something that they've seen before, most likely. We really value the Korean values around education.
In the afternoon, the students gathered at hiker ground near the Cheonggyecheon stream to experience the more modern side of Korea. Hiker ground is run by the Korea Tourism Organization, which said this is a good opportunity for future generations to build friendships during a year when the two countries are celebrating the 70th anniversary of their alliance.
As you can see, the students are using these sets at hiker ground as backgrounds for their dances, just like K-pop idols.
In a K-pop dance class, students learn how to dance to one of the latest K-pop hits. Many of the students picked up the dance moves quickly and filmed their own music videos.
I think it was a fun experience, but I was a little nervous because it was really short. But I think I'm happy with the overall video. I think it was a good experience that really opened my eyes, and I do look forward to coming back to Korea eventually.
The students we met said they hope to use their knowledge and experience of the Korean language and culture in their future endeavors, and said this won't be their last time visiting South Korea. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Arirang TV has launched a brand new show aimed at promoting the 2030 World Expo host candidate city of Busan to a wider audience. Monday was the premiere of Codename Busan, a bi-weekly global audition program that in the coming months will select virtual human ambassadors tasked with promoting Busan remotely from their own countries. Not many details are out yet, but according to a press release, more and more applications are arriving from around the world. Those finally chosen will be referred to as AI celebrities and will be receiving support from K-pop idols to complete certain missions. Codename Busan will run until the Bureau International de Expositions votes on the host city through its General Assembly in November. Researchers here have found a way to remotely guide robots. When widely adopted, this technology is expected to boost working conditions and safety at construction sites. Jo Sung-min has more.
Avatar is a film that opened our eyes to the new world of cinema, not just through its colorful and sharp computer graphics, but also with the technological imagination it succeeded in emulating on screen. One of the examples would be the technology that links Jake, the lead character, with the blue-skinned alien creature and makes it move freely according to how he wishes. And recently, local researchers in Korea have succeeded in bringing a part of that technology to actual life. The humanoid robot here makes the exact movements with its fingers, hands, wrist, neck, and waist of a person sitting in the driver's seat from far away. Because the user is wearing a type of headgear with a VR screen attached, he or she can see what the robot sees. The robot can sense the user's motions remotely and either turn on or off a switch, move heavy objects, and even shake hands. The technology is also equipped with highly sophisticated motion sensors and 4 infrared cameras that can detect the user's movements however subtle they are. And the overall user experience of it offers an additional feeling of presence and hands-on experience, as users can feel the weight in their arm when the robot is holding a heavy object. Another example of that would be the trembling of the arm when holding onto an electric drill. The team says all it takes to work is a wireless network to get it up and running. As of now, they have succeeded in operating a robot in Seoul from their Ulsan office.
The robot's vision and the data make it feel as if they are right inside it.
The team say the robot could be used in various hazardous working situations and construction sites, as it can carry out delicate and dangerous tasks. Jo Sung-min, Arirang News.
Another round of nationwide rain is in store for tomorrow. The rain system will start to move in overnight, and some regions may see local downpours. Showers will help ease off the dusty conditions we've had. Tomorrow, expect air quality to be restored nationwide. And showers will start from Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do province, and they will gradually spread nationwide. Rainfall will be a bit more substantial for Chungcheongnam-do and Jeollabuk-do provinces, with up to 50 millimeters in the forecast. The rest of the country, including here in the Seoul metropolitan area, will see 5 to 30. Unstable atmospheric conditions will produce thunder and lightning at times. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daegu will be starting off at 12 degrees. Showers will continue into the daytime. As for the daily highs, Seoul will get up to 19 degrees, Gwangju 21, Jeju will be very warm at 26 degrees. Unseasonably warm conditions are expected after the rain. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all for tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great start of the week and a good night.
I'm live! 저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션분들
아무리 봐도 억지 텐션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거고
좋아요.